right, looking about 6 after 1 o'clock at 700 WLW. Mike McConnell, guest stands by. The subject of, religion in public places in general, but for the most part focusing on the U.S. military. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation, headed up by Mikey Weinstein, who is my guest, and put on to me by some local free thinkers who were hoping we could bat an idea or two around. And Mikey Weinstein, good to have you on the program. How are you?
Just fine. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. For the most part, you act on, concerns/complaints that you get for the most part from people in the military. And last numbers I had, 39,000 people had come to you for help, and you've just topped 40,000, correct?
Right. Just the other day, we picked up 4 new soldiers at Fort Riley, Kansas, which put us over 40,000. And about 96% of our clients are practicing Protestants or Roman Catholics that feel they're being oppressed for, quote, not being Christian enough. So we've got about 200 people that work in the foundation, and our job is it's not a political spectrum left or right issue. It's a constitutional right or wrong issue, Mike.
Now, the people who come to you, typically does it have to do with a fellow soldier evangelizing, or what is the number one complaint you get from them?
Well, generally, the number one complaint is the chain of command. It's not. I mean, we're not concerned if a first lieutenant is evangelizing a first lieutenant nearly as much, obviously, as if we have a commander or somebody who is using their position of military authority, to push their religious faith on an otherwise helpless subordinate. For instance, at a commander's call, at a change of command, at a staff meeting, before going out on a military mission, making it clear that there's only one particular version of Christianity that is the correct version here, and this not only violates, obviously, Mike, U.S. constitutional law, our Constitution, but it also violates the large number of Pentagon internal directives, and our foundation is here to act and fight for them because they're afraid that if they speak up for themselves, they're going to face, a terrible reprisal and retribution.
So if prior to a mission, a specific mission with danger involved, if a lieutenant were to say, and God keep a watch over us before they go out, would that be considered a violation?
It really we look at these following things. We look to see what was this done in uniform during duty hours in a workplace in a superior subordinate relationship. Obviously, if someone's going to say, I'd like if the commander's going to say, I want all of us to put our hands in, bow our heads, and make it clear that we're asking God's blessing for all of us. Yes, that's a serious problem. You've got to the numbers vary between the high teens to the low 20s percentages of members of the military that don't express any faith whatsoever. If it's done with someone, in a different context, when we're not looking at uniform duty hours, workplace, then it's a problem or superior subordinate relationship. We don't have an issue there, but these are not the problems that we normally get. The situation we normally get is where a commander says to a subordinate, look, I'm worried about your eternal soul. If you get killed on this mission, you're going to burn eternally in the fires of hell. Fall to your knees and become born again now. And it's something that's, if you go to our website, any of your listeners at militaryreligiousfreedom.org, we're a nonprofit charity. We have 7 Nobel Peace Prize nominations. We've been doing this for quite a while, and you'll see the text, video, and audio. It's pretty stunning to see, Mike.
Well, but then how prevalent is it? The point is we have over 2 million people in the U.S. military. And a number of over 2 million people, you're going to find a percentage of those who proselytize to a degree, and you're going to find a small percentage of those who take offense to the proselytizing. But is it really a major problem in big numbers?
No, we don't. That's a good point. We don't view it as a problem. We view it as or an issue or a challenge. We view it as a national security threat. Let me try to say it to you in one sentence, if I can. We're dealing with a fanatical religiosity that's known as Dominion Christianity. If you're not familiar with it or you're listening on the show, please Google Dominion Christianity or Fundamentalist Christianity, mixed in, Mike, with actual weapons of mass destruction, which we have, the other side doesn't, mixed in with a tortured, poisonous version of so-called patriotism, mixed in with, complete unfettered access to the weapon systems because of the draconian nature of our highly encrustated, vertically encrustated military command system, further mixed in with a total dearth, Mike, of any restraint, oversight, or supervision. And what you have is this metastasizing national security threat internally to our country, every bit as formidable as what we're dealing with externally with fundamentalist Islam, except it's so huge, it's almost impossible to believe it exists unless you're complicit. That's what we're dealing with.
Well, has there been any attempt to use this rather vehement religious belief to actually take an act of war upon themselves and outside of the chain of command to act on those religious beliefs? I mean, just because somebody fervently
I would
believes...
ask your audiences, or if you're your audience, or if you're listening there, to Google the term Jesus nukes. We were approached several years ago by, I think it was close to 68 United States Air Force nuclear missile launch officers, the vast majority of whom were practicing Protestants or Roman Catholics, about the training segment they were going through at Vandenberg Air Force Base for launching the nuclear missiles called Jesus Loves Nukes. It was astonishing. We couldn't believe it ourselves until we got our hands, pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act, on the PowerPoint presentation. It was absolutely astonishing. Equally astonishing was the term Jesus rifles. It turned out almost all of our rifles being used in combat had been bought from a particular defense contractor called Trigicon in Michigan. That is is a fundamentalist Christian organization that was putting the biblical citations embedded into the metal casings of the scopes themselves. Now, there's something we call, Mike, the 13th stroke theory. Maybe you've heard of that, like the 13th stroke of a crazy clock that cast doubt not only upon that hour but all that preceded. This is very much like gravity. I mean, you pick your pen up in your studio and you drop your pen on your desk. Why does it fall? Because of gravity. That is how inextricably intertwined dominion or fundamentalist Christianity is, into the very DNA of the Pentagon, or what we now refer to as the Pentecostalagon. There's, you can't just sit there and say, gee, so there's only 40,000 that are offended. As Sandra Day O'Connor said, Mike, in America, we do not count heads before we enforce the First Amendment.
Well, it's just one of those things where I think you're looking for a conspiracy that's not there. And, I mean, lots of people, there's no way that an object such as, the barrel of a gun with any sort of inscription, for God so loved the world, he sent his only son, that is not going to impact some soldier's willingness to use it outside the bounds of an order and simply attack someone based on his religious beliefs. I mean, it doesn't happen. If it's as entrenched as you say it is, we should have seen some fruit by now, should we not?
Mike, I want to be respectful of you, but you really don't know what you're talking about.
All right.
I've not done the research here. There's an old saying that civilization is a constant race between education and catastrophe. I don't know how much you prepped for this interview today, but we were approached by 136 U.S. Marines and soldiers who were mostly in Helmand and provinces, because they were going into the villages of Afghanistan where 90% of the people are illiterate, but they wanted to see the Jesus rifles. It had a huge impact. That when we look like the 10th version of the 9 prior crusades that started in the year 1096, we do 3 things, and we don't look like we're there for our own national interest, but we're actually like the 10th incarnation of the Crusaders, and that is that they all begin with E. We enrage our Islamic allies, Mike. We embolden our Islamic enemies, and we eviscerate unit cohesion, good order, morality.
Well, I'm not saying the inscriptions should be there, but it's pretty easy for someone in procurement to say, don't put the inscriptions on the rifles anymore, and be done with it.
Well, that's what Petraeus said. After we broke the story, it went viral. Again, Jesus rifles, please, Google it. The Church of England was the first one to come out supporting us. Then it turned out that all of NATO had the same rifles, and you're going to love this. So did the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. Petraeus came back, and I think it took 2 or 3 days when he was our senior commander there, and said, okay, this is wrong. Stop it. We had young soldiers, and they're teenagers, in their early 20s, late teens. They were using pennies to try to scratch them off the rifles, but they were being threatened with court-martials by their superiors for, quote, defacing government property. So the government told Trigicon to stop it, and they put out 100, quote, fix-it kits for millions of rifles. You take a look at that aspect of the denominator and the numerator, and you can see how terrible it is, particularly when the military said, well, we're not going to fix them in the theater. When the people rotate back, we'll fix them here stateside. We have clients that are 4-star admirals and generals. We have clients that are at the very lowest levels of the enlisted, privates, airmen, at the E1s to O10.
Well, you do, but your organization's been around for how long?
We started, we're now in our 10th year. We actually got into the fight because of Mel Gibson's movie, which came out February 4th of 2004, the Passion of the Christ, which we often refer to as the Jesus Chainsaw Massacre or Freddy versus Jesus. That's when I found out that several of my kids who were attending my alma mater, the Air Force Academy, were being essentially forced to go see the movie. And we kept thinking, what's going on here? It was 22 months later when we realized that this was not just some small matter, issue, or problem, that was being confined to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. It was endemic, and it was everywhere. And so
How were they being forced to go see the movie? Was everybody required to see that movie to the, with the exception of other movies, or is it typical that unit will watch a movie at a particular time?
Let me ask you a question. Have you yourself served in the military?
No.
Okay. Well, in the military, oftentimes, when your command element tells you that there's something that is strongly suggested to do, that is almost equivalent of an order. Now, at the Air Force Academy, Mitchell Hall, the huge dining facility, is the place where the cadets march into, 3 times a day for meals. Unlike any other time, they'd march in, and on each plate there was a flyer about pushing this movie. On the staff tower, when the cadet chain of command addressed the cadets before the meals, the most senior cadet was talking about the imperative to go see this movie. Going into the Fairchild Hall, the enormous academic building, you couldn't see the walls because it was papered everywhere. The push was coming, and then when some cadets tried to push back, the chain of command was used. I mean, this has been widely covered in the media. I've written about it in 2 of our books.
Right. My question is, does that happen with other movies, or was it unique to that movie?
Mike.
Yes.
The answer to your question is negative. Only this movie. At the same time, in the giant cavernous Mitchell Hall, there were biblical citations that were being put up on the little, I guess, kind of like the billboards, the digital billboards that were up there. And so this is something, as I said before, that is literally as endemic, as ubiquitous as gravity is, and it's a particular type of Christianity known as dominion Christianity. And it is just unbelievably prevalent. There's a reason we have a lot of notable people that support us that are Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians. I think you're supposed to be a Libertarian yourself. I'm sure you know Gary Johnson, who's a friend of mine, the 2-term Republican governor here. He's on our advisory board. Dick Lamb, the former 3-term governor in Colorado, one of the 2 Navy SEALs that was unfortunately killed in the attack in Benghazi, was on our advisory board. One of my close friends, one of our strongest supporters. We have a lot of people out there that support what we're doing and realize just how real it is. And, there's a reason that we exist, and we went through 40,000 troops the other day. And if you go to the website at militaryreligiousfreedom.org, again, you will see.
Well, yeah, I've been there. And my point is, I'm not saying that everything you're saying is wrong. I'm just saying you're not perhaps the right messenger.
Well, let me put it this way.
I'm also, I tend to be... I'm a believer in religious liberty. The one piece I was reading, you had a beef. Was it Wheaton College, a Christian college that wanted the head of their ROTC to be of Christian faith?
No, Mike, you're missing it.
Well, just let me finish my point. Hey, Mikey Weinstein, you're forgetting whose show this is. Let me finish my point. If a crosstown here,
time to respond to your point.
Well,
okay?
I haven't gotten to it yet. Relax. A crosstown here at Hebrew Union College. If they had a ROTC program and wanted someone of the Jewish faith to head their ROTC program, I wouldn't bat an eye. It's a Jewish school. I know what I'm going into if I go there. If I go to a Christian school in particular and join their ROTC program, and they want a Christian to head up their ROTC program, I expect that. It's not the sort of thing that bothers me, but it bothers you.
Now, stop. Like I said before, I don't give a hell whether or not you think I'm the right messenger or not. Apparently 40,000 members of the military do. It doesn't matter what Hebrew Union College wants or what Wheaton wants. The Army put up a requirement that anybody who wants to be, as an Army officer who wants to go take that position, has to be of the Christian faith. We don't care, we don't give one piece of crap about what the colleges want. It's that the U.S. Army was saying you must be a Christian, which violates Clause 3, Article 6 of the Constitution, Mike. I'm a constitutional lawyer. I don't think you are. No religious test for any position in the federal government. That was the whole concern here. And the Army.
I wasn't addressing the Constitution, Mikey, if you listen. My point is that when you come across as grotesquely intolerant, not just grossly, but grotesquely intolerant, you're not doing your movement much good if the intent is to sway people to your view.
Spoken like a true, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male over the age of 40 who's straight. Listen to me, man. I think it was in Corinthians that...
like I said, you're not scoring points with people because you're a bad messenger.
Oh, bad messenger. You're a bad radio host. I mean, I should have your job. You can try mine for 10 minutes and see if you survive.
I don't want your job.
Look through a glass darkly is what Paul said in Corinthians, right? Well, your prejudices are completely messing up the glass you're looking at this reality through.
What prejudices am I exhibiting?
Oh my God! You're exhibiting the prejudice of if they don't like that, you're speaking as a typical.
That's
person.
not what I said.
No idea what it
I
feels
said
like.
it wouldn't bother me. You're not even listening to what.
Except for the fact that I checked the Constitution, Mike McConnell is not the barometer through which we decide what's going to be good or bad for our country. We have a Constitution. We have case law. We have Department of Defense directives, instructions and regulations, bro.
And if you could pay attention, and that's a stretch, you would understand that's not what I did. I simply stated something that would not bother me. Among the people who...
I understand that, Mike, but you're not an Army officer who came to us saying...
I'm not claiming to be an Army officer. Well, you put so much... That's another thing. Stop putting words and thoughts in other people's mouths and heads. None of that did I think. None of that did I say.
We're doing your radio show, man. I mean, show some level of intelligence.
Can you shut up?
You shut the hell up.
I think we've had enough. All right, Mikey, no other day.